Every year, the outboard industry spends hundreds of millions of dollars convincing you to buy features you don't need. Features that break down. Features that lock you out of your own engine. Features that turn experienced boaters into helpless passengers. I've spent months talking to mechanics, dealers, and insiders who are finally ready to speak up. What they told me made my blood boil. 7 features exposed, one by one. And number 4? It's so bad, so deliberately designed to drain your wallet, that there are now serious calls to make it illegal. If you're thinking about buying an outboard, or you already own one, this video could save you thousands of dollars and years of frustration. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. What outboard feature do you think is the most overrated? Let's see if it made this list. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and ring that bell, because what I'm about to reveal, the marine industry doesn't want you to. No, let's get into it. Let's start with something that sounds like pure convenience. Keyless ignition. FOB systems. Walk into any marine dealership today, and they'll tell you this is the future of boating. No more fumbling for keys in your pocket. No more corroded ignition switches failing at the worst possible moment. Just tap, press, and go. Simple. Modern. Effortless. Yamaha pushed it. Mercury embraced it. Suzuki followed. Premium pricing across the board. The pitch works beautifully in an air-conditioned showroom with soft lighting and a fresh cup of coffee in your hand. The reality on the water is a completely different story. Here's the fundamental problem that manufacturers either don't understand or simply don't care about. These FOB systems were designed using automotive technology. They were engineered for environments where moisture means occasional rain, not relentless salt spray. They were built for temperature ranges that don't include a black console baking under the Florida sun for 8 hours straight. Marine environments are brutal. They destroy electronics. And these little plastic key fobs, they never stood a chance. Spend 10 minutes on any major boating forum and you'll find owner after owner reporting FOB failures after just 1 season. The touch sensitivity degrades. The internal circuits corrode from humidity. The battery compartment seals crack and let moisture in. And when that FOB finally gives up, you're not looking at a small inconvenience. You're looking at $250 to $400 for a replacement. Then another $75 to $150 for dealer programming, because heaven forbid you be allowed to pair a new FOB yourself. A marine mechanic in Florida with 18 years under his belt told me something that stuck with me. He said he's had customers strand themselves at the boat ramp because their FOB got wet sitting in a cooler. The old key ignition systems? You could diagnose and fix most problems yourself with a basic screwdriver and maybe $40 in parts. Now, you're waiting 2 weeks for a dealer appointment just to get your boat started. But here's the part that really exposes this feature as overrated. Unlike your car, most boats don't actually have immobilizers tied to the FOB. That means the FOB isn't providing real security. A determined thief can still bypass the system the same way they always could. The FOB just adds an expensive, failure-prone layer of inconvenience for the legitimate owner while creating nothing more than an illusion of protection. You're paying premium prices for technology that performs worse than what it replaced. Now let's talk about feature number 2, auto trim systems. This one sounds incredible when you hear the sales pitch. Systems like Mercury's Active Trim and Yamaha's Helm Master use sensors, accelerometers, and GPS data to automatically adjust your engine trim for optimal performance. The marketing promise is seductive. Perfect ride, every time. No experience required. For new boaters who feel intimidated by learning trim adjustment, this sounds like a gift from the engineering gods. For experienced captains who understand what trim actually does, it's a slow-motion disaster. These systems rely on data that can drift and miscalibrate over time. The moment your boat's load distribution changes, you pick up extra passengers, move your cooler to a different spot, burn through half your fuel, the system's assumptions become wrong. I found a documented case on a boating forum from 2022 where an owner's auto trim kept over-trimming at cruise speed. The bow rose higher and higher. The boat started porpoising violently. He nearly threw a passenger overboard before he figured out what was happening and managed to switch to manual control. But the deeper problem isn't occasional system failures. It's what auto trim does to boaters over time. It robs them of a skill they should be developing. Experienced captains develop something that can't be programmed into software. They develop feel. They learn to read the water ahead of them. They anticipate chop before it hits. They understand instinctively how their boat responds to different trim angles in different conditions. This isn't some mystical gift reserved for salty old sea dogs. It's a skill that takes time to develop. Yes, but one that separates competent boat operators from passengers who happen to be holding a steering wheel. Auto trim systems short-circuit that entire learning process. They tell new boaters they don't need to understand what trim does. Just let the computer handle it. Trust the algorithm. And for years, that works fine. Until it doesn't. A boat dealer and captain based in California gave me a phrase I haven't been able to forget. He calls these systems training wheels that never come off. He's watched guys run boats for 5 years straight who still have no idea how trim actually affects their hull in the water. Then the system glitches during a routine outing, and they're calling him from open water, panicked, asking why their bow is suddenly pointing at the sky. They never learned. The system never let them. And here's the part that dealers conveniently forget to mention during the sales process. Auto trim systems are often bundled into larger joystick docking packages. They're integrated with other electronic systems in ways that make them surprisingly difficult to simply turn off. Try to disable auto trim on some setups, and you might void your warranty. On others, you'll need a dealer visit just to access full manual control of your own engine. You're not buying a helpful feature. You're buying into an ecosystem. An ecosystem of dependency that gets harder to escape the deeper you go. Now let's move to feature number 3. And this one isn't about technology that fails. It's about language designed to deceive. Over the past decade, outboard manufacturers have increasingly borrowed terminology from automotive performance culture. Walk through any marine dealer showroom and you'll see words like supercharged, turbocharged, and high output splashed across banners and spec sheets. The implication is unmistakable. This isn't just an outboard motor. This is a performance machine, something special, something powerful, something worth paying extra for. Buyers respond to that language. They pay premiums for it. They feel a surge of pride telling their friends at the marina they bought the supercharged model. Here's the problem. There are no supercharged production outboards on the market. Not a single one. When Mercury or Yamaha uses terms like supercharged performance, they're describing naturally aspirated engines that have been tuned for slightly higher output through ECU remapping and internal component modifications. There is no supercharger bolted to these engines. There is no turbocharger. There is no forced induction whatsoever. The word supercharged is being used as a feeling, not a description of actual technology. A master technician in Florida shared a story that perfectly captures this disconnect. He said customers come into his shop regularly, proudly announcing they bought the supercharged version of their outboard. He asks them to pop the cowling and show him where the supercharger is located. They look confused. They can't find it, because it doesn't exist. What they actually paid for was a different computer tune, maybe some upgraded internal components, and a marketing badge. The $4,000 premium they handed over went toward a feeling and a logo. Not forced induction technology. But let's set aside the misleading terminology for a moment. Let's say you don't care what the words mean. You just want the extra performance, whatever the source. Even then, the math rarely works in your favor. A 2019 analysis conducted by Boat US examined warranty claim rates across different outboard configurations. What they found should give every buyer pause. High-performance outboard variants showed 23% higher warranty claim rates compared to their standard counterparts. These engines break down more often. That's not speculation. That's documented data. Side-by-side performance testing tells an equally sobering story. These high-output variants typically deliver somewhere between 3 and 7% more top-end speed than standard models. That's the benefit. The cost? 15 to 25% higher fuel consumption. Mandatory premium fuel. More frequent service intervals. Accelerated wear on internal components that leads to earlier rebuilds. Run the numbers yourself. You're paying thousands of dollars extra at purchase for marginally more speed, significantly worse fuel economy, higher ongoing maintenance costs, and statistically increased failure rates. The performance-to-cost ratio almost never makes mathematical sense. But it feels fast, it sounds impressive, and that feeling is exactly what manufacturers are selling. A carefully constructed emotional response wrapped in automotive language and priced at a substantial premium. Now we arrive at feature number 4, the one I mentioned at the start. The one that should genuinely be illegal, and I don't say that for dramatic effect. I mean it literally. Proprietary diagnostic lockouts. Modern outboards are sophisticated machines. They contain dozens of sensors monitoring everything from fuel flow to combustion efficiency to exhaust temperature. They generate thousands of data points. When something goes wrong, the engine's computer stores fault codes that explain exactly what happened. In theory, this technology should make troubleshooting faster and repairs more accurate. In practice, it's been weaponized against the people who own these engines. Here's how this works in the automotive world. Back in 1996, federal regulators implemented something called OBD2. It's a standardized diagnostic system that the law requires to be accessible. You can walk into any auto parts store, buy a $30 scanner, plug it into your car, and read the fault codes yourself. You can clear minor errors. You can troubleshoot problems. You have legal access to your own vehicle's diagnostic information. Independent mechanics have the same access as dealerships. The marine industry has no such requirement. None whatsoever. Every outboard manufacturer uses completely proprietary diagnostic systems. Mercury has VesselView. Yamaha has Command Link. These systems are locked down tight. Independent mechanics cannot access the fault codes stored in your engine. You, the owner who paid tens of thousands of dollars for that outboard, cannot clear a simple sensor error. Even basic troubleshooting procedures that take 30 seconds with an automotive scanner require a dealer, appointment, dealer-specific software, and dealer hourly rates. Those rates are substantial. Most marine dealers charge somewhere between $125 and $200 per hour for diagnostic time. And what does that diagnostic time often involve? Plugging a laptop into your engine and reading what the computer displays on screen. A procedure that costs the dealer virtually nothing in actual skilled labor gets billed to you as specialized technical service. I've reviewed internal dealer training materials that explicitly position diagnostic lockouts as a revenue stream. This isn't an unintended consequence of complex technology. This is deliberate business strategy. Manufacturers are creating artificial dependency to capture service revenue that would otherwise flow to independent repair shops or be saved through owner maintenance. An independent marine mechanic in the Pacific Northwest with 3 decades of experience shared his frustration with me. He said he can rebuild a powerhead blindfolded. He knows these engines inside and out, but he cannot clear a basic fault code on a 2022 model without calling the manufacturer and requesting temporary access. It's not about safety, he told me. It's purely about control. In 2023, a coalition of marine industry groups began lobbying for right-to-repair legislation modeled on what already exists in the automotive sector. They argued correctly that boat owners deserve the same access to diagnostic information that car owners have enjoyed for nearly 3 decades. So far, manufacturers have resisted fiercely. Their official position claims that open diagnostics would create safety risks. Critics across the industry call this exactly what it is: protectionism dressed up as concern for consumer welfare. Consider what this means for actual boaters in real-world situations. A commercial fisherman whose engine throws a minor fault code can be effectively stranded for weeks, waiting for a dealer appointment. His livelihood depends on that boat running. But the manufacturer has decided he doesn't deserve access to information about his own engine. A cruising family anchored in a remote bay experiences a simple sensor glitch. There's no way to diagnose it. No way to reset it. No way to determine if it's serious or trivial. They have to cut their trip short and limp back to civilization, hoping the problem doesn't escalate. The cost structure tells the whole story. A dealer diagnostic fee runs $150 to $300 just to tell you what's wrong. A simple sensor replacement that involves $40 in parts balloons to $400 to $800 because the dealer is required for the repair. The independence you once had as a boat owner? Gone. Replaced by manufactured dependency. Automotive owners have federally protected access to their vehicle's diagnostic data. Boat owners, people who often depend on their vessels for commercial fishing, charter operations, or emergency situations in remote waters, have no such protection. This practice should require full disclosure at the point of sale, at minimum. Buyers should sign a document acknowledging they understand their engine's diagnostic system is proprietary and inaccessible. Better yet, the practice should be prohibited entirely through federal legislation. Until that happens, every modern outboard buyer needs to understand exactly what rights they're surrendering when they signed that purchase agreement. Now let's talk about feature number 5, fly-by-wire throttle systems. The marine industry calls it digital throttle and shift, or DTS. It has become standard equipment on most mid-range and premium outboards over the past decade. The technology replaces traditional mechanical cables with electronic controls. Sensors read your throttle input. Computers translate that input into commands. Actuators move the engine's throttle and shift mechanisms. When manufacturers describe this technology, they emphasize the benefits. Smoother shifting. Easier rigging during installation, that luxury automobile feel at the helm. And honestly, when these systems work properly, they do feel refined. The shifts are crisp. The throttle response is immediate. There's an undeniable quality to the experience. The problem is what happens when fly-by-wire doesn't work properly. Mechanical throttle cables represent decades of proven, simple technology. When something goes wrong with a cable system, you can usually see the problem. A frayed cable is visible. A stuck linkage can be identified and often freed with basic hand tools. Experienced boaters have performed temporary repairs on mechanical systems using nothing more than zip ties, electrical tape, and creative problem-solving. Mechanical systems fail gracefully. They give warning signs, and they can usually be coaxed into getting you home. Fly-by-wire systems fail completely and without warning. When a DTS control module fails, there is no temporary fix. There is no roadside creativity that will save you. There is no getting home under your own power. You need a tow. Then you need a dealer with proprietary diagnostic equipment. Then you need a replacement part that might be sitting on backorder for 6 weeks or longer. Documentation across boating forums reveals persistent reports of DTS systems hunting between gears, particularly in cold weather or after extended idle periods. Some owners describe their engines randomly dropping into neutral at cruise speed. Picture that scenario for a moment. You're running in rough water. Traffic is heavy. And suddenly, without warning, your engine decides to disengage. That's not an inconvenience. That's a potentially catastrophic failure with serious safety implications. The cost comparison makes the trade-off painfully clear. Mechanical throttle cable replacement runs $50 to $150, and a reasonably competent owner can handle it themselves. DTS control module replacement costs $800 to $2,500 and absolutely requires a dealer. A marine service manager in Michigan told me he genuinely misses cables. He misses being able to solve problems dockside with basic tools and common sense. Now he tells customers their boat is simply undrivable until a computer chip arrives from overseas. Feature number 6, cowling integrated displays. Several years ago, manufacturers began building touchscreen displays directly into engine cowlings. The marketing emphasized cleaner rigging, fewer helm components, and that futuristic aesthetic that photographs beautifully for brochures and boat show displays. Here's what 5 minutes of actual boating reveals. Those screens are behind you. When you're operating a boat, you're facing forward, watching the water, scanning for traffic and obstacles. A display mounted on the engine cowling is functionally useless while underway. You'd have to turn completely around to see it. And in direct sunlight, which describes most boating conditions, glare makes these screens nearly unreadable anyway. When cowling displays fail, replacement costs run $2,000 to $5,000, requiring complete cowling removal. Traditional gauge clusters cost a fraction of that and take an afternoon to swap. A rigging specialist in Texas called it the look back and crash feature. Nobody watches their engine while driving. It's a solution desperately searching for a problem, and it found your wallet instead. Finally, feature number 7. Joystick docking systems. This is the crown jewel of overrated outboard technology. Systems like skyhook and joystick piloting were marketed as the great equalizer, technology that lets anyone dock a multi-engine boat like a seasoned professional. Never be embarrassed at the marina again. These systems cost $15,000 to $40,000. For that investment, you're purchasing a substitute for a skill you could develop in an afternoon of practice. Docking a boat requires understanding a few basic concepts: prop walk, wind drift, throttle control at low speeds. A competent instructor can teach the fundamentals in hours. Practice for a few weekends, and most boaters handle routine docking confidently. When joystick systems fail, and they do fail, the results range from confusing to devastating. Videos circulate online showing boats pinballing off dock pilings because the system misread wind conditions. Worse, dealers report growing numbers of owners who literally cannot operate their vessels when the joystick malfunctions. They never learned manual docking. The technology that promised confidence created helplessness instead. A yacht broker on the Chesapeake Bay told me he's watched boaters with 20 years of experience who cannot back into a slip without their joystick. The system didn't make them better captains, it made them passengers on their own boats. So there you have it. 7 features the marine industry pushes as premium technology that experienced owners and mechanics consider dangerously overrated. The pattern is unmistakable. Complexity where simplicity works better. Dependency where independence served owners fine. Solutions to problems that never existed, creating new problems that definitely do. Before your next purchase, ask the question dealers hope you won't. What happens when this fails? The ocean doesn't care about your options list. It only cares whether you can handle the boat beneath your feet.